Being 7 o'clock, I'll call the January 16th, 2018 Planning Board meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, come on. Stop. Hey! Somebody's got chalk on the board. Oh, your fault, sir.
Everything's my fault.
Well, at least you admit it.
Somebody else's fault besides mine. Roll call. Steve
We
McConerty.
have a publication that says it's his fault.
Absent. Jean. Absent.
Get
Sam
the Terry
Martin.
Nancy said.
Jim Otterbach.
Here.
Peter will.
Be here sometime.
Bob Gillette.
Here.
Dennis Legendre.
Yep.
Roy Barron.
Yep.
Connie Billings.
Here.
Guess you're not here though, huh? I didn't hear your name.
Now open the public hearing
Oh, she did,
for the
okay.
proposed resident
Here we go, yeah.
revisions of warrant articles to the Ossipee zoning. First one is, are you in favor of the amendment number 1 as proposed by the planning board for the town of Ossipee ordinances as follows? Amendment to replace the outdated section 4.9 entitled Travel Trailers and Campers with a new section 4.9 entitled Recreational Vehicles and Tents on Private Property, and adds pertinent definitions to expand and clarify the regulations of said temporary and mobile uses. And I can't read the whole thing, so somebody else can read it. Go ahead, Tim.
You want me to read it?
Yeah,
Okay.
do a section, everybody can do a section.
All right. Let me see. 4.9, recreational vehicles and tents on private property. 4.9.1, general requirements. A recreational vehicle or tent shall be located on private property that isn't a recreational camping park. See Article 15, only in compliance with this section 4.9. 4.9.2, campsite. A campsite shall comply with the following requirements. A recreational vehicle or tent shall be located on private property wholly within a private campsite as defined in this ordinance, designated by the property owner. B, the corners of the campsite, excuse me, shall be marked by the property owner and shall be of sufficient size to accommodate the recreation vehicle or tent. C, one private campsite per parcel of land is allowed for a period of no longer than 30 days consecutive during the calendar year. During a calendar year. D, if a campsite is occupied or planned to be occupied for more than 10 consecutive days, the property owner shall obtain a permit from the building department and shall be required to show sufficient arrangements for adequate water supply and that satisfactory sewerage and solid waste disposal safeguards are in place. E, no campsite shall be used as a permanent residence. F, a campsite placement on any lot shall conform to the setback requirements in Article 6, Section 6.4.1 and 6.4.2 of this ordinance for purposes of applying the setback requirements. The area of the campsite shall be treated the same as a structure. It is treated in section 6.4.1 and 6.4.2. G, solid waste and sewerage shall be disposed of in a lawful manner. H, a parcel owner shall not receive any form of compensation for use as a campsite.
Of a campsite.
Again. I, a recreational vehicle connected to a water supply shall be hooked to a sewage disposal system approved by the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services. J, only one recreational vehicle or tent is allowed per campsite. 4.9.3, storage of recreational vehicle or tent. Nothing herein shall provide the storage of
Preclude.
preclude the storage of an unoccupied recreational vehicle or tent on private property provided. A recreational vehicle shall be owned and registered in the name of the owner of the property. B, a tent, excuse me, a tent shall be fully collapsed and disconnected from all utilities. C, all recreational vehicles shall be stored in their fully collapsed road-ready configuration, disconnected from all utilities. D, all other state and local requirements are met. E, no more than one recreational vehicle shall be stored on a property.
What happens if you own two?
Are they registered?
Don't make no difference. If you own two, you own two.
Are they registered?
If one ain't, why can't you still keep it on your property if you own it? I'd tell you take a fine, you know what?
Oh, let's not do that. Connie, somebody read.
We've already had a chance to review this, Roy.
Is there any
Yeah,
more
I just got
discussion
somehow.
on the plan? Yeah.
I have a take on B. The corners of the campsite be marked by the property owner. Is that for a tent on somebody's property?
That's what you put in, Steve.
Rick, what's your take on that?
I think that's the campsite.
I don't have an issue with it.
Like it's somebody's house, somebody's house, and they wanna put a tent up for their kids to go camping.
Mhm.
I mean, do we need to have the pinning in there?
Well, it addresses recreational vehicles as well.
Okay.
I don't particularly care.
I know a campground you need so much. I was curious on somebody's private property.
Well, I don't know if you put this in or if I added this in, but the thought is that when you go to visit a site, I'm thinking more of you,
Yeah.
where's the site going to be? Well, it's going to be over there someplace.
Yeah.
Well, is that in the setback or is it not in the setback? You know, those types of questions.
Yes, okay.
You need to define the area so you can.
That's the thought process, and I think I took this from another, I can't remember if this was what was presented to me or if I added this, but,
But I think on F, where we have setback requirements already there, we may not need the,
well, you do have setback requirements.
you do on F, we do. We may not need to
Right.
pin it. Well,
That's, you know, I don't think it's a big deal to indicate where the campsite is.
yeah, I
Um,
just think it's just getting complicated is what I'm thinking, for
Right.
the average homeowner.
Well, B talks about defining the, I'm sorry, yes, it defines the
Corners of the campsite.
corners of the campsite, where F defines the setback, so to speak, or refers to setback. So it's
Yeah.
giving you, you're covered both ways, but I mean, B certainly tells you, this is the property.
I guess my take on it, I don't know of anybody that's gonna go out and put posts in the ground saying, this is where my tent's going, so I can see it.
Either, yeah.
Nobody's gonna do
Yeah.
that. It's just making it harder.
Well, you also are telling the people that they have to mark their four corners of their property.
That's what it's saying, that's what I'm thinking if we can.
No, in F, you're saying,
No, that's just a setback.
no, well, how are you gonna determine a setback if you don't have it pinned?
You're not gonna survey a lot of land, I'm not a surveyor.
I understand that, Steve, but you're saying it's gotta be a setback
You're looking-
requirement, and
You're looking
if
too
you
deep.
don't know where your lot lines are,
You're looking too deep at this corner.
I'm not looking at it too deep, because you're saying it's gotta meet setbacks. How are you gonna determine the setbacks?
I know what the setback requirements are.
But how do you measure it if you don't know where the line is?
I'm not gonna get out and measure it. This is somebody's house. I'll get shot. You're not gonna see me here. You're going way overboard with this whole thing.
I'm not. I mean, I'm taking what you gave us.
Would you buy a piece of land and not know where your lines are?
Some people do.
Okay.
You have, you, Dennis, you have a prime example coming when Brian gets up here.
Well, let's stay focused on
Yeah.
Excuse me, I know I'm a little late to the party here, as usual. But I'm confused. Wouldn't he use the same methods he uses if someone was to build on a lot to determine where the setbacks are?
Most of the time,
Yes.
the lot is pinned.
Yeah, I don't see any
A lot
issue
is
with the
never
two.
pinned. Unless it's on the water, then I request it. That's it. I may have to have it surveyed. I may have to ask to have it surveyed, but as far as pinning, no, I request that when they're on the water, when the close proximity to the lakes and property lines. But if you've got 5-acre parcel and you're on the middle, I can't imagine somebody going out and putting stakes in the ground.
Well, you're also saying that, Main Street, Moultonville Road, they set up a tent. You
Setback
know, I
requirements.
mean, don't go 5 acres, because a lot of places aren't 5 acres.
The setbacks are altogether different. You might find 10 feet off the line. It's case by case.
Yeah.
Any other discussion?
Yeah.
Yes, Bob?
Different subject. There's a prohibition on recreational vehicles that are being stored. It says they can't be connected to utilities, must be disconnected from all utilities. It's commonplace to have an extension cord connected to your recreational vehicle to maintain the batteries. So that's connected to utilities.
I'm sorry, Bob, which one are you referring
I'm
to?
4.9.3 C.
Thank you.
So if it said disconnected from all utilities except to maintain batteries, then that would clarify the point, I think.
Well, a lot of times recreational vehicles aren't plugged in all the time. Some people, I mean, you can do a trickle charge, or you can just plug it in, you know, for a couple days a month or whatever, depending on,
We
you know,
do
what
a
kind of
trickle
system
charge.
it is, so,
A lot of people pull the batteries out.
yeah.
We don't.
I know.
Well, we could replace utilities with water and sewer.
I don't have a problem with that, because if you leave something plugged in and it's unmanned at any given point in time, you potentially have a fire hazard. I mean, that's kind of a worst-case scenario, but that's just something to think about. I'm kind of being the devil's advocate here, but,
You're right, an overheated battery.
yeah. I mean, or a charger, if a charger's built into the RV and it overheats or something.
This weather's not gonna overheat.
No, I'm just saying.
Anyone else? Dennis?
Nope.
Anyone from the audience?
Did you read the 4.9, the first one, the travel trailers and campers?
That is the current section.
That's the current one?
Would anyone like to make a motion?
I will make a motion that we accept the new proposed section 4.9 in its entirety, which is the recreational vehicles and tents on private property as read.
Do I have a second on that?
Second.
All right, any second discussion?
Yeah, I kind of have to agree with Roy on 4.9.3 E, because there are a number of people who snowmobile. It's a family affair, and they may have 2, 3, or even 4 snowmobiles. If they're stored in one area, I just can't imagine that would be something that we couldn't allow.
Are you saying like on a trailer?
On a trailer or even in.
Do we consider a trailer a vehicle? Because if we do, then we have many people in town that are in violation of our zoning bylaws that state that only one unregistered.
Secret's recreational.
Right.
Skidoo is recreational, motorcycle recreational. I mean, trailer are recreational, some of them, some of them work.
Some people might have a utility trailer, and a boat trailer, and a collapsible tent trailer, and a snowmobile trailer. And as far as I'm concerned, none of those are vehicles in the definition in our zoning.
If I could suggest, you know, if we keep going on, we define recreational vehicle in the next section.
Right.
So it may make some sense to go through that before we,
Well, you get to vote on each amendment as it comes.
well, this is one amendment, isn't it?
No. It's two amendments.
I set, you know, you can do whatever you want. I set these 2 pages up as one amendment, or 3 pages.
It does say pertinent definitions and definitions that should be included.
Right, but as you were pointing out, even in in Article 33, the definition for recreational trailer and tent trailer are specific, and both of them are not defined as a snowmobile trailer or a boat trailer or something like that. So,
Right.
in answer to Roy's question, yes, you could have more than one trailer.
I guess you could have more than one snow machine according to this too, because
You-
it's not even listed here.
There's
It doesn't
no,
fall into the category anywhere, or four-wheel.
But you fall back, same trouble, you can't have more than one camper on your property. That's considered recreational. I have a problem with that. My wife's got a camper, I've been thinking about buying a camper. We don't always keep them registered. You gonna tell me I got 7 acres, I can't have 2 campers?
I wouldn't mind if you had 3 campers.
What's that?
I wouldn't mind if you had 3 campers on your property. Are they
You, what about the
registered?
next guy?
Are they registered?
I said sometimes, yeah, sometimes we didn't register hers last year, it needs a little bit of work. This year, I hope to register. You don't know.
Nobody's living in them, right?
No, but the point is, you got a
Then you're
limit right
compliant.
there.
Then you're
Not
compliant.
compliance.
No, it says no more than one stored on a property.
Dennis, you want to read 2 articles?
Which one, 32, 33?
Yep.
Amendment Article 33, title definitions to include the following definitions. Replace, wait a minute, I'm in the wrong one. No.
no, you're right.
Replace the current definition of a travel trailer, which provides travel trailer, a recreational vehicle that is towed by a car or truck. It is designed as a temporary living accommodation and is usually outfitted for connecting with temporary utility and hookups.
No utility hookups, no end.
With the following proposed definition of recreational vehicle. Recreational vehicle. A recreational vehicle means any of the following vehicles. Motorhome or van, which is portable, temporary dwelling to be used for traveling, recreation, and vacation. Constructed as an integral part of a self-propelled vehicle. 2. Pickup camper, which is a structure designed to be mounted on a truck chassis for the use as a temporary dwelling for travel, recreation, and vacation. Recreational trailer, which is a vehicular, portable structure built in a single chassis 400 square feet or less when measured at the largest exterior horizontal projection, calculated by taking the measurements of the exterior of the recreational trailer, including all siding, corners, trim, molding, storage space, and areas enclosed by windows, but not the roof overhang. It shall be designed primarily not for use as a permanent dwelling, but as a temporary dwelling for recreational, camping, traveling, or seasonal use. Tent trailer, which is a canvas or synthetic fiber folding structure mounted on wheels and designed for travel, recreation, and vacation purposes. 10. A portable canvas or synthetic fiber structure used as a temporary dwelling for vacation or recreational purposes. campsite, private, an area located on private property and not in a recreational campground or camping park for the placement of a tent or recreational vehicle for overnight use of its occupants.
Sam, will you withdraw your second and
I
withdraw your motion so that you can include definitions?
withdraw my second. Withdraw your motion.
No, I'll withdraw my motion.
You can make it again with including
I
definitions.
now make a motion to accept amended section 4.9 titled Recreation Vehicles and Tents on Private Property, and amended Article 33 entitled Definitions as read.
Second.
Made second, and any discussion? Anything from the public? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Motion carries. All those opposed? Mr. Barrett? Motion carries.
So you didn't make any amendments to this?
No.
Okay, so
What
you
is
don't,
the name there?
you don't need the second public hearing on that?
On that particular one,
Right,
no.
okay.
Well, you can read yours.
The proposed 218 warrant, what y'all do that?
Amendment number 2.
Excuse me?
Amendment number 2.
Where's number one?
That's what you got. Yeah.
I'll start right on top then. Okay, proposed 2018 warrant article to amend Ossipee zoning ordinance. Are you in favor of the adoption of Amendment 2 as proposed by the Planning Board for the town zoning ordinance as follows? Amendment allows for a bed and breakfast as permitted use in the rural district and adds temporary structure as a new definition to Article 33 entitled Definitions.
Rural zoning district. Sorry.
I said rural zoning district.
Okay.
Anyway,
Want to do the playback?
nope.
All right.
1, amend article, the 34, entitled Permitted Uses and Special Exceptions, Table 1, Chart of Uses, Section 34.2, to allow bed and breakfast as permitted use instead of requiring a special exception as follows. Note, to be deleted appears in, text be added appears in bold, italics, underline. Do we read the chart?
Just bread and breakfast will be permitted in the rural district.
Bed and breakfast may permit the rural breakfast, rural district, thank you.
Definition in 33.
Definition 33, amended article 33 entitled Definitions, to add new definition of temporary structure as follows. Temporary structure, a temporary structure, a portable canopy, carport, tent, shelter, tent. A temporary structure will be subject to all setbacks and shall have the same setback requirements as accessory building. First planning board public hearing, do we need to read that part?
No.
We don't, we're already doing that.
I have something to say about that one.
Are we gonna ask, are we going through this as far as the?
I need a motion
Motion.
to accept.
Make a motion to accept or second, whatever we need to do.
Somebody second?
I'll second.
You made it, Sam.
Yep.
Open for discussion.
I have a question about this. I've been contacted by phone and in the grocery store and other places that people that own private homes are not happy with this bed and breakfast change. I've had phone calls.
As a resident, I know I'm gonna have to agree, as a resident of Ossipee. It's like, that the people should be notified before changes are being done in their neighborhood, especially at bed and breakfast.
It says permitted. Does not say.
Exactly. They should come in front of the board, Connie, and notify the abutters.
You have to. It's permitted, that's all it's doing, is saying you don't have to go to the ZBA. You can come directly to the planning board with a site plan.
Now, you're saying then that during a site plan review, they have to?
They have to do a site plan review.
Okay, yep, yep,
You're like any other business.
yep, yep.
So
Absolutely.
the butters are
So
noticed.
you're sitting here, instead of saying, I have to go to the ZBA and get a special
right.
exception, then I have to go to the planning board and get a site plan done.
Right, I agree.
Now you're eliminating the ZBA. That's all you're doing. Yes, Marie?
Why are you eliminating the ZBA? What's the purpose in eliminating the ZBA?
You're throwing up barriers that shouldn't be there.
So why wouldn't
We
you?
can still turn it down.
Right, but I'm just saying, what's the purpose?
Because it's discouraging bed and breakfast in the rural area, what it's doing, every other zone allows it.
And not only
Where,
that,
where would most of your bed and breakfasts be?
Yeah.
In your rural areas, because it's where your old farmhouses are.
and going through the ZBA with a special exception is kind of redundant to
Right.
going through the planning board with
Correct.
the site plan
Exactly.
review. Yeah,
That was put in there by people up on the mountain. I know when that happened, I know who put it in. I know who was selecting at the time. I'm very familiar with the top of the hill.
All right. Sam, you had a comment?
I want to reiterate that people are not happy with this change. With
Well, they
something-
can vote it down. I mean, all you're doing is eliminating one step.
I understand that, I'm sure
And,
people.
and, you know, we're sitting here putting all kinds of restrictions on campers and everything else. And in order to get business into town, you have to have bread and breakfasts, you have to have restaurants, you have to have this and that. And we're just eliminating one thing that the rest of the town doesn't have to do, just in the rural.
right. It's a-
So the
it's-
voters can turn it down. They turn it down, it stays a special exception.
Right, it's a redundant requirement.
Correct.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For one zone only. Any other comments? Then I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries.
I do have one comment, if I may.
On what, Rick?
And this is probably, I see Roman numeral 2, and we got new definition of temporary structure. That's like part of this,
Correct.
Oh,
so, I mean,
Do you want to break it out?
that's where I wanted to point it out to you. I mean, if you wanted to break it out, we could have that as a separate thing. I know this sort of has to do with the Bachman case that we just tried on Friday afternoon. So you might want to break it out as a separate, as a separate article, but that's what you guys decide, not
oh, you
me.
mean a second warrant article?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, it's a separate amendment.
I thought we just voted on it.
We did, so we can have to rescind the vote and change it, which Mr. Sager is correct. Actually, it should go under 4 point,
Yeah. Yeah, that should have fallen under the previous,
4.9.
well,
You got two, Article 33s too.
yeah. Under definitions, that's true.
But you're also going under, oh no, it would be definition.
This one here that deals with a specific subject matter. So they have to do different subject matter.
Make a motion that we rescind both votes that we just took and put temporary structures in Number 2, Article 33, title definitions to include temporary structures,
Second.
and to remove it from amendment number 2.
Second.
Made, seconded, all those in favor? Okay, we go back to amendment number 1. Make the motion that we approve amended section 4.9 and amend Article 33 entitled definitions to include temporary structures in that.
Are you gonna take up the twos, or are you gonna have two twos?
Amend the
We're gonna
Article
add
30.
that to the previous.
And take that top line out. Thank you.
Made, seconded.
I'll second that.
Oh, Sam did.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All those in favor? Motion carries. Oh, excuse me, Mr. Barron, you want to vote no?
Yep.
Okay.
All opposed.
Are you abstaining? Are you abstaining?
I don't need to vote because there is nothing.
I'm just checking.
I know. Make a motion that we, adoption of amendment number 2 to include the permitted uses of special exception table 1 as presented. You want to second that, Roy?
I'll second
Yep.
that.
Roy seconded. Any more discussion on it? All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries. Now comes the hotbed. Who would like to read proposed number 3? Peter?
Are you in favor of adopting, are you in favor of the adoption of amendment
Number
number
3.
3? Mine doesn't have a number, so I as proposed by the planning board for the town zoning ordinance as follows. Amendment modifies the language in section 24.1.1 to require a building permit for all construction in the town, but maintains the current exemption from any building permit fee for projects having less than $2,500 in material cost. 1. Amendment section 24.1.1 as follows. The current section 24.1.1 reads as follows. 24.1.1 Building and zoning permits, added March 1995.
I don't have a problem.
Building and zoning permits issued by the town of Ossipee will be required in accordance with the International Code Council Regulations, Section R105, permits as adopted by the state of New Hampshire when the project's material value meets or exceeds the local within 50 miles average retail cost of $2,500 as determined by the town authority issuing the permit, zoning enforcement officer or building inspector. Applications for these proposes shall be available, shall be available at the Ossipee Town Hall, amended March 2006 and 2010. The proposed section 24.1.1 reads as follows. 24.1.1 Building and zoning permits. The issuance of a permit by the town authority zoning enforcement officer or building inspector is required prior to the consentment or of construction or modification of any structure within the town of Ossipee. There shall be no permit, that was A, I apologize. B, there shall be no permit fee for the construction or modification of a property owner's primary residence, provided the value of the material for the project is less than or equal to $2,500, based upon average retail costs within 50 miles of the town of Ossipee as determined by the town authority issuing the permit. A permit fee is due in accordance with the town's schedule of fees for the construction or modification of any structure where the value of the project's materials exceed $2,500.
Thank you, Peter. I will entertain a motion on it.
I'll second it.
Made and seconded, discussion.
Yes. I didn't hear anything from anybody about the bed and breakfast, but I had a lot of people come up to me, and I was rather surprised. A lot of them are native, been here for years and years, and they don't quite think it's fair that people have a primary residence and then people who come up here for summers, they should fall into the same category. They should get the same treatment when it comes to this. There should be no charge for it. And I guess in the case of Steve, I don't know, this is more for you to try and understand what's going on around town. I don't think there's a lot of money involved here, right?
No money involved.
And it's, I don't know, I just think it would be goodwill if we included everyone in that.
Well, I don't think it's just goodwill, I think it's discrimination. And I call upon the attorney to
Is it discrimination? It's unclear to me, because discrimination is usually based on, race, sex, those types of things.
but we allow them to buy a town sticker the same as a resident. Now you're saying just because you're not a resident and you want to do something to your home, you have to have a fee, you have to pay a fee. And the resident doesn't have to.
You're asking me if it's discrimination. I don't think it is. I mean, the state of New Hampshire charges different amounts if you're a fisherman, if you live in state, or if you live out of state. You pay more if you're out of state. I don't think
There's a
it's,
reason for that.
But correct me if I'm wrong, if you show
Whoa,
up.
whoa. Let him finish, please.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
I mean, if you look at it, a resident pays the state tax, whatever taxes there are in the state, and the property tax, where a non-resident with a fishing license doesn't. That's where that comes. And you can't register a car in the state of New Hampshire if you're a resident of Massachusetts. So, to sit there and say, you live on a lake, we charge you $5,000 for that privilege of living on the lake, but we're gonna charge you for a permit that I don't have to get. And I think it's discrimination.
that's fine. I think it's discrimination perhaps from a moral perspective, from a legal perspective, not so much.
I can just see, yes, Bob?
What we seem to be discriminating against here is owners of secondary residences, or discriminating in favor of a primary residence. So you may have your primary residence here in Ossipee, but if you have a secondary residence as well on a lake somewhere, a cottage, that's still going to require a building permit. So it's not a discrimination against individuals, it's simply against a particular category of property.
It's discrimination because the man's got enough money to buy 2 pieces of property in town.
So-
Like Joe Deegan said last time, his primary residence is on Moultonville Road, but he owns the old Independent. He owns a piece down on 16.
Right, yes.
He has to pay down on 16 and then the Independent.
So you get only one discount, and that's for your primary residence, wherever it happens to be located.
That's correct.
Otherwise, you don't get a discount, that's
Yes,
all.
boy.
We're allowed $2,500 for anybody, any building before, and it should be $2,500 still for anybody, even if you're gonna make your permits, period. That's my opinion. I don't think it's right to change to say, well, you're a primary resident for this guy, if you're a resident, and hell with everybody else. That's not right, period.
How does this help your
Not
job?
a permit's necessary either. We just raised the limit, and it was advised by a selectman 2 years ago.
Look, I think the whole idea was, correct me if I'm wrong, Steve. Steve wants to get a handle on what's being built in town. And a lot of these are small projects. He finds out about them after the thought of it. There's not much you can do about it. There are things that probably should have been done that have already been done now and have to be he's just trying to get a handle. So, what's wrong with giving out $2,500 or less, everyone that permit?
That isn't what this says.
No, that's why I'm asking.
I understand.
I don't
but
think it's enough
you and I
money to
and
be
Roy-
worried about.
You and I and Roy are all in agreement in that part. Roy and I voted against it the last time, you voted for it.
Yes, I did, and I talked to many people, and I'm here for the people of this town.
I've heard it,
And
too.
many of them disagree with that wording.
And I
I'm
heard
pretty
it.
upset about it, period. I didn't have to get.
Well, I think if I may, very quickly,
Yes,
I
Peter,
think
go.
the spirit of the ordinance is just to assist people in their primary residence. I mean, it's not made for second homes, it's not made for discrimination, it's not made, it's just that if you're a homeowner and you live in a residence, I'm very grateful that Mr. Deegan has the resources to have multiple structures, but I could care less. If he'd like to do something in his home, and it's under $2,500, I think that this is fair, to cut people a little bit of a break at their primary residence. As far as how deep their asset pool is, I could care less. And if someone
No, fair.
from another state, whether it's California or even overseas, I don't care where they're from, has a second home in New Hampshire, I am thrilled. But it is not their primary residence, and the spirit of this is to assist people who live here year-round at their home, so that they can
But
take
you-
on smaller projects and not have to go pull permits.
The
You're pulling
only
everybody else's rights they have now.
I'm sorry?
You're pulling everybody else's rights they have now. You're taking a lot of rights from a lot of people that they've already got, and they're gonna lose if this goes through.
this,
Not pretty sure.
There's
I
no
think it's, if I may just disagree with Roy's comment, that I know you say that a lot, but I really fail to see how we're gonna be injuring someone. I mean, have we gone to Massachusetts or any other state for that matter, and see what kind of privileges they're afforded in their town of residence that we're not aware of?
They're
but
taking
no.
I mean, can I go down there and be afforded those same privileges?
nothing to do with it.
It does.
Both of you. But Peter, in 1995, they voted this in. Nobody had to pay under $2,500. Now you're saying, just because you're not a non-resident, or you don't, your main primary residence, whatever you want to call it, is not an Ossipee, that you have to pay. So now you're going against what the town itself said that they wanted.
Let me state this a different way. I agree with Dennis that we are here for the residents of Ossipee. I could care less if the other people who are supposed to benefit from this are not from the town of Ossipee. I am only interested in people who live here, who have a primary residence here. That's all I care about. I'm not discriminating against anyone else. We are here to benefit the residents of Ossipee. I am tickled that people are so gracious and kind-hearted that they're worried about their vacationers and out-of-staters. If that's the case, they can chip in some money and give it to them so they can pay for the building permit.
I represent all taxpayers, period. That's all it should be. You take an oath of office, you represent, everybody pays taxes.
As
Great.
Peter said, the
All right.
zoning ordinance,
Yes, Sam?
yellow. Please. As Peter said, the zoning ordinance is written for the people of Ossipee.
Everybody obeys it, resident, non-resident, they all have to obey it. It's written for everybody.
But they don't, and that's part of the problem.
Yes, Steve?
That's the problem that would happen. I mean, the residents of Ossipee are great. I don't have a problem with the residents of Ossipee. right? The problem that I'm having is they're not coming in and getting the building permits because they're under $2,500. So I can't tell you how many times they've had to move structures and buildings that were built and lost a lot of money and a lot of damage to them because they didn't know. Where do you go with that? $2,500. I don't know of any other town in New Hampshire that does this. I think we're very generous to the residents, and I think that's great. That's what I want to see. I also want to be able to help these people. I was in court on Friday because of this. People build things. This is going on for 2 or 3 years. What's the cost in the town? If they come in and get the permits, they'd understand. This is setbacks, this is requirements, this is what has to get done. Nobody knows. And that's what we're up against. That's the permit aspect of it. The $2,500, again, I don't know of any other town that does it. I think Ossipee is great. I think we're treating the residents great.
Connie, can I get just a quick clarification from Steve? So basically what you're asking for is that up to the $2,500, a resident does not have to pay for their building permit.
No,
What
they
would be
don't
the
even have to buy 'em.
maximum, what would be the maximum fee that a non-resident property that's being renovated that's less than $2,500 would be? What are we talking about in dollars?
Depending on what it is, $25.
So we're not talking about a huge financial hardship or inconvenience on somebody that's on the lake that lives out of state and they come up and they wanna add a porch or something like that that's less than $2,500. Their permit's only gonna cost them a nominal amount.
It's $25 for the administration fee.
Okay.
That $25
Up to the
administration
$2,500.
fee would be siding, windows, roofing, all three combined if they want to do them all,
Right.
$25. When you get inside of the square footage, 10 cents a square foot, it's not much. You might be talking $30, $40.
But up to $2,500, it's a nominal fee is what you're saying?
Very
Okay.
nominal.
Okay. But this ensures that you have a permit in hand, which gives you an idea of what's being done in town.
It's not only that, I'm getting a lot of phone calls from banks,
Oh, right,
insurance
right.
companies.
Right.
Are they permits? People go to sell, the residents don't understand, but when they go to sell their house, 4 or 5 years later, Steve, I need you okay, I'm not gonna walk into somebody's house and okay their project. I wasn't there 4 or 5 years ago when it was built. This is the problem that we're having.
This is the problem that you're presenting to us that I don't agree with, because I don't need a permit for $2,500. So I can do it.
These are facts. Your house burns to the ground. Did he have a permit for it? No.
That's,
Yeah.
Connie,
And this has got nothing to
correction.
do with electrical or plumbing, no matter what. You
I
need a permit for
understand
that.
that.
You need a permit, but you're not paying a permit fee.
But $2,500 or less, I do not need a permit.
A building permit.
You do.
Now I do not, now at this present time.
For electrical and plumbing, you do.
I'm not talking electrical and plumbing, Steve. You're saying $2,500.
$2,500.
The present ordinance says I do not have to notify you for less than $2,500.
It says you do
On
not
a
need
building.
permit.
A building permit. Is that correct?
You do not need a building permit, that's right. But you still gotta build the code. Can you build the code? Are you fortunate enough where you can build the code?
Yeah.
A lot of people aren't.
Well,
This is what I need, people are gonna get hurt.
that is not your responsibility.
It certainly is.
No, it's not.
Yes.
Under $2,500, it is not. It is the homeowner. You're taking on liability for this town by saying that you need a permit to go and do it.
I'm protecting this town with permits.
Exactly.
I'm not gonna argue with you anymore. Yes, Marie?
I just want to point out, was a problem up on Ossipee Mountain Road. I had a customer on Ossipee Mountain Road that was upset because they didn't come in to get a permit. They didn't know, they didn't need a permit. It was under $2,500. It was a shed. I'm all set. I don't need a permit. He built it himself. It was 10 feet from the road, and he had to move the whole structure because he didn't have the setbacks. If he had gone down for a permit, he would have been told, if you're building a shed, you need to meet the setbacks.
I don't agree with that, I'm sorry, because.
Well, now what he had to do,
Zoning for ordinances, if they follow the zoning ordinances, they wouldn't have built the house there.
It wasn't a house, it was a shed.
A shed.
So now he
Whatever
has
it
to
is.
drag the shed across his yard.
That's his problem,
I
because he didn't
understand
read. I do not think that the public is that stupid that they can't pick up zoning ordinances and follow them.
No,
And
but
if they don't, then it's their own stupidity that they have to move something.
Excuse me, Chairman, that's where you're mistaken. Not everybody's in your position, and not everybody knows that. There's other people that do other things for a living. They don't open up books and read ordinances and read building permits.
Excuse
It's like
me.
any other town.
very quickly here.
Excuse me, Peter. They, that is their responsibility as a landowner and as a property owner to know what rules and regulations there are. And you, as a landowner, you should know it. This town voted them in. We've been here for 20 years.
Connie, this isn't even worth the argument.
Well, I'm telling you.
You're not gonna convince me any other way.
You're not gonna convince me either.
Then,
So-
let's stop.
You just contradicted yourself.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
How?
Tell him.
10 minutes ago, we were discussing the matter, and I said, what person is gonna buy a piece of land and not know where his lines are? And you said, people do that all the time.
They do.
That's right, people do things that are stupid, and they don't understand the rules and
And
laws.
they start,
And that's why we have a zoning officer.
but you're telling me, Dennis, that the zoning officer has to stand there and tell these people spoon feed them, oh, you guys should do this.
No,
Hold on.
I'm not saying that.
Very quickly, I just want to make a quick point. Yeah, because a lot of people do not want to pick up a book. They don't want to go to the website. They're just going to call somebody. And even in today's day and age, they'll email them or text them. That's what they try to do. They want to speak to someone. They don't want to go through hold. They don't want to go through a book. They want to find somebody who wants to get the answer as quickly as possible. They're not going to spend 3 days reading through our zoning ordinance to make sure that they're okay or trying to make sense of it. The gibberish, to us, it's fine. We understand it. We look at it every day. To some people, they can't make heads or tails of that, Connie. And we have to be, sympathetic to those people.
And similarly, if someone is not clear as to what they can and can't do by requiring them to get a building permit, regardless of whether it's under or over $2,500, it gives them an opportunity to have access to what is required of them by virtue of the permit. Whereas, I don't disagree with what you're saying, Connie, about people taking their own liability by doing things that are not according to the zoning ordinance, but our job, I believe, our responsibility to the town is to help those people comply with what our regulations are in town, instead
That's
of.
why you have site plans for,
Right, but what
You
I'm
have the
saying
rules
is,
for the rest.
relative to the permitting process, it's kind of like the educational process of helping them understand what they're obligated to follow. And one way of allowing that to happen is to have them go through the permitting process regardless of the fee structure.
well,
Connie,
yes, ma'am.
I've heard several people on this board call citizens of this town stupid, and I find it an affront. I think it's really poor of this board to call anybody in this town
That's
stupid.
not how that was made in context.
Let me
Who's calling,
finish.
who's calling, who's stupid?
Oh, whoa! Let Sam finish, please.
All right.
People don't always understand, as Peter said. People don't always have the time to read through it. They want to go somewhere, they want to get the right answers, and they want to do the right thing. And that's what we're trying to do, is help them get there.
Absolutely. Oh, that's why I said, you were informing them. That's not calling them stupid, Sam, that's
No,
informing them.
you didn't call them stupid, but several people on this board.
Okay, I just wanted to be very clear
I
of
didn't
that.
call anybody stupid, I said that it's their own responsibility.
My comment was more Big Brother, because the Big Brother thinks people are stupid. That's my comment.
All right,
It's not calling people stupid, a hell of a difference.
all right. I hereby call a vote for amendment number 3. All those in favor? All those opposed? Is there any other under the public hearing.
So this is unchanged. Okay.
Public hearing is now closed. Rick, is that going in as, how the board voted?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Is this, will this these three articles have recommended by the planning board 5-1 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 2? So that the people understand that there are people on the board that did not agree with the amendments.
You're asking me if the,
On the ballot, it'll say
on the,
recommended 5-2 or 5-0.
Or unanimous or whatever.
it usually says recommended or not recommended by the planning board.
I prefer to see it, the people, the amount of votes for it, and put on it against.
Some of them read that way, right?
Fine, I mean, if I can do that, I will do that, if you can get me the votes.
I would appreciate
Otherwise, we're misrepresented at the town meeting.
Well,
I forbid that, Jeff.
if the statute allows it, I will put it on.
Thank you.
I think the last time we tried to do it, we couldn't do it. But the minutes of the January 2nd, 2018 meeting, all read.
Motion to accept.
Motion made to accept,
Second.
made seconded. Are there any corrections or? No discussion? They were in your packet. The only difference between your minutes is on the setting of the dates. Laura's changed it to 2018 changes.
Per the request of Connie.
Correct. I don't know what I did.
We don't need the second hearing, right?
I-
Do we not? We don't need the second.
I
public-
closed,
We do a vote on the minutes?
I closed the public hearing.
Connie, I think what her question was, do we need another hearing on the 30th for these zoning amendments? And the answer is no, because you didn't change the substance of any of them. You just moved them around a little bit, which you get to do. So if I'm all done, I'll go home and,
Go home and have your beer.
Have a beer.
well, I got one of those in the truck. I'm waiting to get.
We didn't want to hear that.
I didn't say I'm gonna open it, I just said I had one in the truck. Sorry, no, it's not.
You won't open it now.
All those in favor of accepting the minutes as written and corrected on the date?
It's only legal.
Motion carried.
Have one for me, please.
Thank you, Rick.
My pleasure.
No.
Budget report we don't have.
I abstained on the minute.
We should have asked him to stay. He has no word on the gravel
Most
pit?
Nope.
Okay. Make a motion that we accept and pay invoice 111 from Sager and Smith PLLC, the amount of $945 and then the amount of $52.50.
Second.
Made and seconded, all those in favor? Motion carries. Unsatisfied conditions. make a motion that we continue Verizon and H&R Block until the fire chief presents a letter to the planning board that the addressable monitored fire, smoke, and carbon monoxide alarm system is compliant with the National Fire Alarm and Signal Code.
It must be, they're open.
Read the letter, please, Sam.
I get that, but I'm just saying they're
Okay,
open.
they're open. I don't care whether they're open or not. They still have not, the 1 hour rated firewall and the emergency lighting and exit signs are corrected. That is a motion. Do I hear a second on it?
I'll second.
Made and seconded, any discussion?
Yeah, can I ask Steve one question?
Yes, sir.
Was a temporary certificate of occupancy issued for them?
Not yet.
Not yet, okay.
Not yet. The, everything's installed but the fire system, and they're working on it right now.
Okay.
Was there an issue with the firewall, or was it dated?
No, the firewall's all complete. We walked through the building.
It was complete.
Structurally, everything's complete. We're waiting for, I believe it's Pope to come down, put the security, the fire system in,
Okay.
and then they're complete.
You got his bills? There's no other discussion on it, I'll make a call for a vote. All those
I
in
guess I
favor?
gotta ask, I mean, you say they're open, right?
They're open.
How do they open without
Have
an
they met
occupancy
the
permit?
requirements to allow them to be open? I mean, what's the story?
They don't get a full occupancy permit until they get the alarm system installed.
But they're not in any,
But they have a temporary in hand right now.
Yeah, they got 45 days to open up. No,
Gotcha,
I don't
gotcha.
do temporary permits anymore.
Okay, I got you.
Temporary permits, if it goes to court, you will lose.
Right, right, I understand that.
so they're within the law.
They're within the law right now. Me,
Well, they're
myself and the
within,
chief.
they're not within the fire code law at the
what?
present time.
I went through it with the chief, and we both agreed.
I understand it, but his letter says that they're not in compliance with the fire code. Is that correct, the way I read that letter?
45 days, I believe the letter says, for the alarm
Correct.
system.
So another 45 days,
The rest, we already saw. The lights, the signs, everything else is complete, he saw it.
Well,
Yes, we are waiting for the fire alarm itself.
let me call you back tomorrow, plan a board meeting.
but it says here planning board.
I like it.
So,
Lock the door.
and if you will issue a temporary permit, the requirements listed shall be complied with within 45 days. He has not complied with the fire chief, so thus that letter states as such.
They do not have a certificate of occupancy right now.
I'm just saying that until the chief can present us a letter that states that all fire codes and everything else have been satisfied, that we keep this as an unsatisfactory.
For 45 days.
Absolutely, I agree with you.
Okay, that's the motion I put in. All those in favor? Motion is carried. You didn't stamp these, right?
No, I didn't, I just got them in too.
Okay. I believe you're up, Brian, finally.
Okay, thank you.
Well, this meeting was continued from December 5 because the landowners were still doing some negotiations, so there's been a little change to the plan, which I would like to replace the originally prepared plans with these.
I can get it. Thanks. Thank you.
top there.
Those plans are.
Right, right.
Or actually,
So we owe you 5 plans and 8 11 by 17s, and this will satisfy that requirement.
Brian, can I ask you to state your full name for the record?
Brian Berlin with Land Tech. So since it was continued, this,
Brian,
I'm sorry.
you put it up.
Oh, you do have an easel?
Easels are 8 in the corner.
Great.
Just put it so that Ed can pick it up on the camera, please.
Yep.
stick around that chair if you want.
Right here.
I thought Ed's gonna hold it for him.
So because this was continued, this application has not been accepted as complete or acted on in any way.
Correct.
We have 2 landowners, one Monroe here and a Bellow here. And Mr. Monroe bought his house so many, many years ago and learned this year, or actually 2017, that the lot line runs through his house, this being the original lot line. His driveway was here and a power pole feeding the home there. Came very late, surprise to all. He was able to negotiate with his neighbor, Mr. Bulow, to do an equal land exchange of 6,007 square feet. So this triangle will be conveyed to Mr. Monroe, known as parcel A on the plan. And this triangle of equal area will be conveyed to Mr. Bulow from Mr. Monroe. There's no change in the road frontage, which is here. Mr. Bulow has 205 feet of frontage, Mr. Monroe has 215, and again, there's no change. Both lots are over 3 acres, so they meet the zoning ordinance, where we have conforming lots. Mr. Monroe has also moved this existing driveway to here, with permission from the town. So the driveway encroachment is removed. That's pretty much it. It's, again, an equal land exchange of .138 acres, no change in frontage, no change in conformities. Because in
What
my...
is the shortest distance from that house to the new line?
25 feet is the zoning minimum. I went 26 feet from the overhang, just to make sure.
I'm going right across like this.
I'm sorry?
I'm going straight across.
From the house.
Yes,
Right there.
Yep, this is, meets the zoning ordinance.
Not that corner.
This one
The
too
way
does.
you have it right now, going from this corner to this corner, is it?
That meets the ordinance.
Okay.
Yes,
That's what I'm trying to get.
with a foot to spare. So we go from not only encroachments, which do not meet the ordinance, to a condition that does meet the ordinance. To me, again, this is fairly simple, so I've requested some waivers from the subdivision regulations. The first waiver is submitting a Mylar at the time of application. To me, that can be a wasteful step, because if you want some changes, everything gets thrown out and I have to replot a Mylar. Another reason for that is when the pins are in, the surveying rules say we put the date the pins are in. So that would come, I'm hoping this Thursday, if we can get a conditional approval on this tonight. The second waiver request is a wetland study. There are some wetlands back here from my, I'll say, I'm not a licensed wetland scientist, but I have some working knowledge in it. There's not a lot. It's a steep ravine and a bit of a runoff here. Because we're not creating any new structures or any new lots, I think a wetland study would be redundant and unhelpful. The same is true of doing soil test pits. They're in your regulations, but this is a simple lot line adjustment. Shouldn't need test pits. By the way, Miss Monroe does have an existing septic system. And lastly is, because it's a simple lot line adjustment, we're requesting a waiver from topography. Because again, no new structures, no new lots. So that is it in a summarized nutshell.
Make a motion that we accept the application.
Second.
Well, we accept the application with the exception of the Marli being furnished later. I want that in there because the Marli is required for an application. He's asking for a waiver. So I want a conditional upon that being furnished. You may second it now, Steve, Peter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I second.
Discussion on it. Seeing no discussion, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor accepting the conditional application? Motion carries. They present your waivers. Present your waivers one by one, please.
Oh, sorry.
You did. You just do it again?
Yeah, but we gotta vote on them one by one.
Okay.
Okay. The first waiver is submitting that Mylar, which is that now voted for?
No, we've already put a condition on that on your application, Brian.
Okay. The second waiver is 9.04P, which is the wetland delineation and impact study.
Make a motion that we allow that waiver.
Second.
Any discussion on it? All those in favor? Motion carries.
The third item I didn't see in the regulations, but it's on the checklist, and that is soil test pits and percolation tests.
Make a motion that
Waiver.
soil pits are not required.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor? Motion carries.
And the final waiver is again on the checklist for lot line adjustments, and that is topography, being contour lines.
Make a motion that we forego the topographic contours.
Second.
Made and seconded, discussion. All those in favor? Motion carries. The only,
I'm sorry, we need to back up a little bit.
okay,
Soil test pit was his fourth waiver. He had a wetland study before that.
Yeah.
That was number 2.
wetlands was number 2.
What was the pins to add dates?
That's in the Marli.
That's in the Mylar. Okay.
Yes.
He cannot mark the Marli with pins,
Okay.
all right?
The final plan to be submitted to you will reflect that the pins are in fact set and the date they were set.
All right. The only question I had, Brian, was on the Morrow's, says also quitclaim deed of Knox Mountain Landowners Association Incorporated to the previous owners to be recorded in the registry here with. Now, is there any difference between the two deeds?
I don't understand the question of where it
Oh,
came
come here.
from. Sure.
Right there.
That is a previous deed in Mr. Monroe's chain of title.
It's not registered.
To be recorded. I believe that is recorded.
Well, I mean, I'm only going by what's on here. So
Right.
if this is adjust the rules and regulations to Knox Mountain landowners, that's fine. It should be, and I noticed that there wasn't on the other one. Where is the other deed? There's nothing in here about that, so.
Okay.
You know, it's confusing because both of them came from Knox Mountain, that's the only reason
Correct.
I'm asking.
They came from two different plans of Knox Mountain. Mr.
No, they didn't.
Bulow, I believe, was an earlier plan, and Monroe was later. There's several plans
No.
of the Knox Mountain area.
They were both in book 568, page 338.
And then there was a later plan, or earlier, I'm not sure which one you're talking about, but there's been two different delineations of this.
There was the original warranty deed of Knox Mountain was in book 568, page 340, and Bueller's was book 568, page 338. And there is another book where the father gave it to the son, which was book 754, page 84. So there's your two different books.
Okay.
And different dates too, probably.
Those were prior owners to the current owners.
I understand.
But the lot lines don't change until this adjustment.
Right. But I mean, I just wonder if there's any difference between the two deeds for the same piece of property where it wasn't recorded. That's all I'm asking.
All the deeds I have read relate to the lot numbers on the Knox Mountain plan.
Okay?
In my opinion, as a surveyor, the lines are correct. I'm not testifying as to their titles.
Yeah, okay. I have a motion on the conditional approval of the lot line, boundary line adjustment
Motion.
with the conditional that the Marli be presented.
Motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
So you get it into us and we'll sign it in February.
Yep. I will do that. Thank you.
To go to,
Or we don't want to sign these, or do we?
Bring in the new stuff corrected. Or the violation. The pen,
yes.
they go on this, they go on
Brian,
something else.
the pin's going on this?
Yes, I'll be setting the pins and
On this?
resubmitting.
On new plans?
The pins will be noted on the new plans.
So we don't have to sign these plans?
No, no, no.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
I didn't want you to go away.
Nope, pins are on the new next set of
Go
plans.
away, don't go away now.
I'm not mad. Okay, thank you again.
Thank you, Brian, have a good week.
You too.
More spit discussion. I haven't heard anything more on that. Laura hasn't either, so we'll skip over. Town report material. Whoa, yeah. Please be advised that your materials for the town report must be submitted by Friday, January 26th, in order to be printed in the 2007 annual report.
Yep.
You got it done?
No, I don't have it done yet.
Do you want me to do it, or do you just want to give me the figures, and I'll do it?
I
Okay,
did it last year.
yeah, I know.
27th?
26.
26.
Notice of decision on January 9th at the Town Hall Annex Parade House. Case number 17-13-V, Timothy and Dorothy Regan, care of Mark McConkey, representing agent for 8 Frost Road, tax map 66. Lot 53 was granted with a variance with conditions and all corners are pinned and all federal, state, and local regulations are followed. Notice the decision on January 9th, 2018 from the ZBA, case number 17-12-V, 56 Main Street, Ossipee LLC of Maine, 56 Main Street, tax map 9-2, lot 122 was denied. A request for a variance from Article 34, Section Table 1, Chart of Uses, open a sober living facility / transition home called Ossipee Granite Recovery /
Transition.
The variance was denied based on not meeting the application's required 5 criteria. So I presume we'll be in court with that one.
Oh, yeah.
What is, plan for Cheryl Wilson Living Trust?
This just arrived today.
Just a corrected form that we do not have to sign. I don't believe, do we?
It's just for the files.
No, it's been revised. Why was it revised? If it is revised, we have to sign it because we signed the original.
What did they change?
I don't know.
Who sent that in?
White Mountain Survey.
For,
Or the Cheryl Wilson Living Trust on Park Ridge.
oh,
I believe that's where it is. Yep, 125 Fox Ridge Road, Ossipee, New Hampshire. I would put this aside and request that White Mountain send us a letter stating what they changed from the original, please. Everybody agree on that?
Yeah. Yep. I certainly think that, you know, based upon my familiarity with drawing plans in general, that anybody that submits a revised plan should have a revision block on it that describes the revision so that it saves Laura and you and all of us time having to chase them down and do that. Or if they provide a letter with the revision.
It's a subdivision, but why?
I didn't see a reason to block the bottom, did you?
Plus, on revisions, it's usually common practice to have the revisions.
111 revision was plat recording certificate added for recording.
Huh?
What is it?
Yeah. Is it on the drawing, the plat certificate actually on the drawing?
I think there was a submitting before it was going to the Registry of Deeds.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So that revision was prior to this document getting to us? We should have them clarify that.
Yeah, asking for clarification, a lot safer.
He's saying there, there's no tax number. for a pretty decent, big-sized lot. Apparently, he is,
Under that address, I don't know, if it's the same one, lower right corner, I hand wrote,
275-0405.
yeah.
I don't know, I mean,
When I
but
looked on
this,
the tax map,
yeah, I know, they're saying no tax number. So,
yep,
it's not our job, so we're saying,
I wasn't assigning it. I typed in the address, that's what came up.
okay. Well, then they should be able to do that too. But if you would do that, please. Oh yes, Steve.
Are you ready?
Let's go.
This is a case that came out before us a few months ago. It's Gillette property on 16.
The what?
Gillette, I believe, is the last name.
Like,
Gillette.
Be an Ossipee Grill.
You guys clean place and
Yeah.
it's not
Ice
open
cream
yet.
grill.
Ossipee
I mean,
It's not open
Ossipee
yet.
Grill.
And he wants to put a clamshell so they can strum a guitar.
Right.
And I believe the board needs a site
He
plan.
withdrew. He came in for informal, talked to us. He never submitted a formal recycling plan review.
All right, a site plan.
Right.
All right. My take on this right now, it's all fenced in. He's claiming the fence is 7 feet high.
Yeah.
Well, now it's a structure, if it's 7 feet high.
Did you measure?
Now it's a structure. Being a structure, it's gotta come for a full site plan review,
No.
because the whole area, he just took up the whole area.
You will have to go back to his original site plan that he got to do the alcohol building,
Yeah.
and you will find that there's a fence on it.
You'll find what?
There was a fence on it. Because he was going to serve alcohol, and he could not have that open to the public.
We require them to have the fence.
That
Now, what
was
were the
required.
requirements that this board put on, as far as conditions?
He met all the conditions. He met the placking, he met the setbacks were all there, and everything was okay.
Okay, well, the fire department has a problem with it. That's number one, so do you have a letter from the fire department?
We
okaying
did.
this?
Reduce the time, yes.
I don't believe though we imposed any restrictions
No,
on the
we
height of the
didn't.
fence.
Because they can't even access the place with that fence there.
Oh.
Well, to make a long story short,
But
the
they-
fence itself is only 6 feet. The posts are 7 feet. How is the board gonna look at that?
Top of the fence, not the post.
But the
So if the top of
ordinance,
the fence is 6 feet, so does it come back to the board?
the ordinance says 6 feet, does not.
And that's what the fence is.
Then
And
he,
now the posts are 7 feet.
I don't care about the post, I'm talking about the fence.
So it comes back to the board.
Why?
This is what I'm getting at.
Why?
Yeah.
That's what
He
he's
wants the
asking.
clamshell, he wants to strum a guitar.
That fence is included as a structure if it is 6 feet. Thus, it is inside the structure.
Over 6 feet. The structure, absolutely right, but once you
So
start
once
claiming,
he puts that in and he has it surrounded, then it's your job, not our job, because we are only on the outside of a structure. We have no control over the interior of a structure.
but it's gonna come back to this board.
Why?
The
Why?
fire department number one's gonna step on it. I've already had a long conversation. The fence is not a legal fence in their eyes.
Is that because there's not an accessible gate?
There's no gate to get in. And I didn't check, but I hope it's not attached to any of the buildings, but you can't have that.
Well, how is he gonna,
It just has to be
how does
spaced
he
a few
make the
inches, right?
requirement?
You gotta space them away. My take on it is if you're saying the fence is like an outside wall of a building with a roof on it, it's up to me now. Tell him he can do whatever he wants inside, outside music or whatever, it doesn't matter, because there's a fence there. This is what I'm getting at. Because this is gonna bring up a lot of subjects and a lot of situations in this town.
If the
No,
fence
it's
is
not.
only 6 feet, it's not a structure.
It is 6 feet, that's what it is.
So it's not a structure.
Yes,
And,
it is.
in answer to your question,
Yes, it is,
Steve,
according to the ordinance. It is
6 feet,
6
no.
feet, it is a structure.
I thought you
Anything
said
over 6
anything
feet.
over 6 feet.
Anything over 6 feet.
It's not over 6 feet, it is 6 feet.
and I'm familiar with the property.
Fence
from
is
my
exceeding
understanding.
6 feet
Exceeding above.
Doesn't
in
exceed.
height.
So if
It
it's
does not exceed 6 feet, it's 6 feet.
It would have to say 6 feet and
2
higher.
inches, yeah.
Yeah.
If it's 6 feet 2 inches, it exceeds 6 feet.
like that, then, right?
If it's just 6 feet, it's 6 feet.
I'm familiar with the property and the posts were put, I was there when the posts were going in,
Yeah.
and I don't believe any of it's attached to either building.
How will the post put in?
Dug a hole and put them in with concrete, I believe.
Yeah, because it's a structure, now it's gonna be anchored.
Yeah.
There's a lot involved when you start talking structure. And now you're talking the inside of a structure.
See, I don't know if there was concrete put in, but I know there's posts in the ground.
I mean, if the fire chief gave his okay to it, if we go and look in the file. Did you look in the file about the original?
No, I asked the chief.
Oh.
But I do know he has plans for 2 weeks. I don't
And
know-
that
I
was
don't know
put
if they're
on-
in. I don't know if they're in.
Per
This is
the Alcohol Beverage Commission.
I understand that, I understand. I understand
Okay,
how
so,
that's working.
and that's what he told us, and that's what he told us he was gonna do.
So to have the outside music, that's okay with the board?
It's inside the structure, as far as I'm concerned, because the fence is 6 feet.
Yeah, I think it has to be over 6 feet. I mean, but
Yes.
Count the post, that's 7 feet.
yeah, if you wanna count the post, that's 7 feet, yeah. Absolutely right.
Part of the fence.
Now, how much is this structure taking up the land? It's only an acre lot. How big is this structure? And what's permissible and what isn't permissible? These are questions I have for the board.
He is meeting all the setbacks right now.
So we're gonna have to pull all this out and pull all the maps out, because I don't know how big the fence is. It was all after the fact to me.
Okay, so can I interject with a little bit of information that's not in the zoning ordinance?
Yep.
When it comes to liquor licensing and the state of New Hampshire and issuing food licenses, outdoor seating does not count
And I agree.
because it's not inside the structure.
I agree with you 100%, but this is inside a structure. That's what he's
Okay.
telling me.
Okay.
With the fence, I'm inside a structure. I'm inside this building. He's calling it a structure.
It's not a structure because it's not 6 feet, it's not over 6 feet.
The argument's gonna be, well, here, he's telling me it's 7 feet because of the posts, and that's what it says. He's listening to these meetings too, and he's coming up with ideas. I don't blame him.
So the fence is 6 feet.
Yeah, I think the actual definition fencing is the fence structure itself, not the posts.
Right, but the fence is not a structure because it's not over 6 feet.
That's correct.
And without a measure, he's claiming it's 7 feet. He's looking for a permit.
So if he puts,
The owners. The owners, yeah.
if he puts a board,
Adds board to it.
I'm just looking for advice here.
if he puts a board on the top of that,
Yeah. Then it's over, yes. Now it's a
then he's
structure.
over. He's
Now
a
it's a
structure.
He's
Now
getting
it's a
this, he's
structure.
getting this structure idea from somebody.
Well, I mean, if he reads the ordinances and looks at it and says, okay, now maybe that fence was 6'1" when he put it up and it shrunk.
Yeah.
I mean, you know wood shrinks. I'm just,
Plastic.
Plastic shrinks too.
it's
right?
plastic, okay.
I guess it'll have to come down, whatever you have for
Or
the site
sell.
plan, I've gotta pull it out, whatever was agreed by the board, pull it out, and then check the fence. See if it's
I
all
mean,
into
the
compliance.
He told us when he wanted to serve alcohol out of that little building with outside seating. And in order to comply with the beverage commission, he had to put the fence up.
Yes, but didn't need to be 6 feet.
Yes.
Doesn't have to be 6 feet.
Did you have the bar tops and the fire pits in there too?
4 feet. like a pool fence.
About 4 feet, yeah, over 4.
What was that again now?
Did you have bar tops and fire pits in there too?
I seem to read the bar tops, I'm not sure what the fire
Fire pits, yeah. Well, these are things that were added, whatever, maybe this is the concerns of the fire department, so it may have to come back.
We're gonna have to pull that site plan.
That's
I
all.
don't remember there being 5.
I'm just looking for advice.
No,
I mean,
I think we better pull it,
it's
look at
in
it the
yet.
next meeting.
What's that?
I think you ought to pull it, look at it the next meeting,
Yeah.
just the questions with the plan in front of us.
I
This
mean,
has been going on for a while, obviously. I don't remember when he first came in.
Is there a fire pit
It's
out
over
in that
2
6
years ago.
area or planning to be?
he came in 6 or 7 months ago, see.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, so it's not
Is
there
this
yet.
another
I
site
got
plan
you.
that was
It's on-
approved?
it's-
'Cause the
it's
original
here,
we
but I'm not-
approved
Yeah.
2 years ago, right?
Yeah.
He was told he didn't.
Cause I know he's gotta
Yeah,
put
something
pavers
big.
down
He
out
came
there.
in for an informal
He'll do that in
meet
the spring.
Yeah.
6 or
Change
7
the
months
height of the
ago.
fence.
Okay, I remember that, yeah, but the original
Early
site
spring.
plan was 2 years ago, we
Yeah.
approved it, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I wasn't
He
here
didn't
when you
bring any
approved.
Yeah,
formal
I know.
Okay.
print or anything in, he just came in for a discussion.
Correct,
That's
that's all
all
he
he
did
wanted to
was
know was
formal.
what, and there were other issues that came up at that meeting besides the building.
He
It was a
wanted-
question of
And
amusement.
the biggest problem that he had was an outdoor concert, because nobody could qualify as to what a guy strumming a guitar with 2 amplifiers, running cords up there to run his amplifiers was Steve's question.
Inside the fenced-in
Objection,
area.
correct. This was all within the, and he showed the property lines and everything else. So,
Okay.
if the chief is not happy with it, and he writes a letter to us, I mean, that's your chief, not ours.
That was
You're a
Dana.
new one,
Dana?
Dana.
A lot of issues.
Actually, that area there, I think that may be Kyle.
No.
We can answer the letter.
That's
Yeah,
right
it
on the
is.
line.
Excuse me, it is because Brooksy's, the brook is the boundary.
Yeah.
Level River is the boundary.
There's some other property there,
Right.
Danny Drew's got land that,
But yet,
comes in
part of the bluffs is Center Ossipee, parts.
It is, it is.
It's all screwed up.
It is. So I'm gonna hold on to this. I've been holding on to the last couple of weeks that he submitted at night.
Well, I mean, next meeting, you have the original site plan, and we'll go through it, and
Do you wanna invite the gentleman over to the meeting too, or not?
I think Steve ought to go over it with
I can look
Laura
through it.
first,
Yeah.
and then
No
we
reason
should
to.
address all of them.
And if I have any concerns, I'll bring it up to the board next meeting.
and you might talk to Kyle, and if he wants to write a letter to the effect that, you know, that he has a problem with the fence or whatever, that,
Well, they could write that to him because he has to have a fence, but still has to be in compliance. We just told him he had to have a fence.
Well, you better be
Regulations-
careful.
no, our regulations say nothing about a fence. It's
That's
a
correct.
beverage alcohol.
Yeah, we didn't
Well, all right, but we
mandate
told
how
me-
big the telephone.
But the fence is included on the plan. So that becomes enforcement, that's not, the fence is actually part of his problem.
Right, it's an accessibility problem within that fenced-in area.
That's
So it needs a gate.
the fire chief's problem.
That's what I'm saying.
If the fire chief finds a problem with that fence, and we okayed it, the fire chief has to notify us so that we
Right.
rescind it.
We okayed a fence.
We didn't impose height
Safety
requirements from what I
explanation.
understand.
Correct.
We didn't impose how to put it up.
And I think I
we-
suggested that it be around 4 or 5 feet.
He came in, and he said that he was gonna serve alcohol in the little building. And he said, because of that, I have to have a fenced-in area, and we went along with it.
And I don't think
Because-
there can be a gate on it, though. I don't think so.
Maybe a locked gate.
Well, there's a way of doing that to satisfy the fire department's access
That's right.
requirements.
All right,
I'm sure there is.
apartment house, what did you find out?
Which one? The
16B.
16B, they're working on it right now. I've gotta go back in my book, when they started first working on it, which was probably 8 months ago. How long has it been closed? Which was,
Peter,
Yeah, 2 years.
2 years.
18 months, yes.
18 months? Well, the key
Oh, 2
is,
years.
the key is 2 years. Now, they've been working on it, back in July.
When did George
I
lose
think
it?
it's 2 years ago.
Yeah,
I think it's been 2 years, yeah.
because
Right
I
Right
remember
around
the,
this time of the year.
I remember the foreclosed sign, it was in the snow and then it disappeared.
But what it comes down to is the 2 years, whether it's open or closed, whether or not he's gonna come back in front of this board. Personally, I don't think he has to. I've got the paperwork to support that too, when they started. Because they were doing delineation, the mold, no, that's all done.
I
Inside
understand
Scotty.
that, Steve.
But I believe it was back in July, and if it's 2 years prior to that,
You have to go back, find out when they shut the water off in that building. And that's when it was an abandoned building, then it became an abandoned building.
That's what I'm working on.
And I believe it was over 2 years ago. If it was over 2 years ago, then he has to have a new site plan.
Absolutely.
He never had an original site plan for that.
No, it was built in the 70s, right?
Yes,
Yeah. Well, let's see where we stand. Next time I come in, I'll let you know.
I mean that, so,
The other one is the pension post. He's gonna be coming in for an informal. I think he wants to put another 10 or 12 units on it. That's the hitching post down here. That's sold.
Okay.
Seems
are you
working.
talking the hitching post or the hitching post in?
The store, whatever the store was.
The store is the hitching post,
Yeah.
but then across the street, I don't know what
Oh,
that
that's
is.
Fritz's over there.
On Main Street.
Fritz's house and the next house over are both Fritz's.
Yeah, no,
The
this
end
is,
and that.
this is the store, the hitching post.
Okay.
He should be
How
coming
many
up.
units are?
He wants
10.
to put another 10 to 12 units out attached to it going out back, and I don't,
Units of what?
apartments.
Oh, apartments,
Yeah, he's got apartments there now.
How big is that one?
I don't
The
know much
lot's
about
not big
it.
enough, I
I
don't
didn't think
believe.
so, I didn't think it was that deep.
I don't know much. I don't know much about it. I just happened to walk in one day, coming back from school about 6:30, and they were gutting it, so that's.
Church owns the land behind it.
Without a demolition permit.
Without a permit. They were- They didn't know better.
No,
Oh,
you
no,
can
they-
wreck all you want without a permit.
No, they, huh? Oh, no, they got in there, electrical hanging there.
I know.
But no, they do that. They're a company out of Boston, they're built.
Yes, Peter, sir.
I have a question for Steve. I see it on our unsatisfied conditions here. I have heard rumblings that the old Johnson's gas building there, that's Valley Point, correct?
Yeah.
They have possibly rented some of the building out to a auto body shop and some kind of other store?
Haven't heard any of that.
Okay.
It's like a knick-knack place.
Yeah, it looks like somebody's doing yard sale stuff. in
That's
there.
correct, yeah, I think that's the woman, and in the back side of that, somebody supposedly was gonna rent it for a auto body shop. Now, I figured I'd ask you to
He's
see
gonna
if...
rent it for an electrical supply shop.
I can certainly
That went away?
take a ride up there, take a look.
Did the gas station fall through?
I think they can't meet those conditions that we were noticed on for the booty
Yeah.
and some other things.
No,
and-
they changed.
Their water consumption may have been the thing that limited them because they were only allowed to use 750 gallons per day.
Mhm, okay. So, in any case,
Is that falling through?
I believe so.
Really?
Is this hearsay, or is this, it
I
didn't go
thought they
through?
were still working on it.
The gas station?
Yeah, but I didn't hear anything about
Yeah,
it.
I
I
thought
thought it
it
was
was-
going through, they were just waiting for permits.
Yeah.
Well,
At this point,
No, they're waiting for
Well, I
permits.
thought too. I don't know. They're
We
variances.
said that they had to have all their permits in hand before they started construction. That was one of the requirements.
Okay.
Right now, with the requirements, until they get that building done, they will not have final approval. It'll always be conditional.
Okay. So, they got 2 years to get this done, right?
That is a good question, because the variance ran out
Mhm.
already
Yeah, some months ago.
in July.
In July.
or it's going to run out in July this year, I can't remember
No,
which.
it's
I think it was last year.
last year.
Lapsed, okay.
No, it was a year and a half ago they started. Between the time,
But last July was the 2-year mark on the variance itself.
on the variance, but
Did they get an extension?
if they are,
They had a 6-month, I think, extension, which ended up being
they
sometime
wouldn't
in
have to need
December.
it. They wouldn't have to need an extension. Because they have met, because of the permitting process, we can't shut them down.
Ah, okay.
So.
I mean, that
to-
was one
to
of the requirements was permits.
Best of our knowledge, they're still trying to,
As far as I know, I can call Jimmy and
Have
find
not
out.
heard
But,
anything.
but let me ask Connie one thing, if their variance is expired, then they have to go back to zoning for a new
The
variance.
variance, once the way I understand it, I might be wrong. They had that variance for a year and a half. Then they put in their site plan review. Once you put the site plan review in,
The clock starts running.
that locks your variance
2 years.
to the
To the site
approval of the site plan.
Right.
So, they can be 4 years from the time they got the variance, before they're not in compliance. I believe that's what
Yeah,
it is.
I don't know the ins and outs of
I
that.
don't. Ask Steve.
but if I'm not
You should have
mistaken,
kept going, Steve. You should've-
Yeah, you should have kept going.
Should've had your coat and your book and kept right up that door.
They put, we're talking Valley Point, that their variance was, I believe it was 2 years this last July.
Then expired.
That's correct.
But did it expire? Or was it continued because they were in site plan, which it says on the bottom, all state, federal, and local regulations shall be followed. So all of a sudden, now you've got a whole new set of regulations.
If they are actively working on it, I'd say it's still valid.
I think it's still valid until 2 years from the time we say that they have met conditional.
But actively working on it, isn't that defined as them physically doing something on
No.
property?
No.
That would be, no, that's the engineer trying to pull the
Yeah,
permit,
gotcha.
and that's just a phone call. That's- You can find out what's going on.
Isn't it 5 years now?
No, 2 years on our variances.
2 years.
2 years. We just changed it last year, remember?
Right.
so they have 2 years to get going on the site plan review, and after that,
But they haven't got approval of the site plan, so they can.
because they haven't.
They have a conditional.
They have conditional, which says that you gotta meet all the state and federal.
Right,
plus-
which is what they're supposed to be working on
They're
is,
working on it.
I believe they're
They've
still working
applied
on it.
for
I
their
made a phone
permits.
call not too long ago, they were still working
Oh,
on it.
yeah, I know.
Okay,
I haven't heard back
all right.
from the petroleum of DES. They called me and asked me, and we went over 3 or 4 of the requirements. I gave them the minutes of the meetings that he had questions on. Boom, 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 boom. One of the things that was the pipe coming from the tank to the dispenser, the boot that the manufacturer said they could use when Dennis did the drawings, they came to find out they couldn't use. So they had to redo that part, and that was one of them.
That was revised.
They had to revise that part. And there were 2 or 3 other things.
Well, last but
The
not
water
least,
thing too,
I got
though.
one more thing, last but not least, Dawson, the laundromat.
Yeah,
He did, he moved all kinds of laundry, all
I understand
landscaping
that he
equipment
put
in there.
everything in there, he needs a site plan.
He's working on a site plan. I was down there today, we had the state, the fire department, myself, we were all down there. He's working on a site plan, he's gonna start doing the building over. So he should be up here by next for an informal with the site
And
plan.
he has to have a formal site plan because I believe that laundromat has been closed almost 2 years.
It's close. I'm not quite sure. I mean, you're talking months.
I'm talking days and months, you know, or weeks.
It's still close.
No, sorry. Even if it has.
What did you wind up doing down there? You guys said you and the fire and the state all met in regards to.
Well, the area that was not gonna be nothing being done with, so you ended up renting it out, I guess. And stored all kinds of equipment.
Tony?
You did rent in the summit. Do we know what's going in
There's never been a
there?
site plan review.
What's in there right
done on
now
that
is just
building.
landscape
Correct.
equipment.
It doesn't make any difference, you still have to have a site plan, right, whether it was 2 years or.
Well, if he was going to do just the same laundromat,
Right, it's a change in use.
but now it's a change of use because the laundromat, then he's got ABC lawn in there. And, he's doing stuff on the other side. And originally, when he came in, he said, I'm thinking of making an ice cream shop out of the old dry cleaners. But ABC went in there.
I know he was here, and we gave him, there was some conditional
I
approval.
mean, no, we never
Something
gave
in
him
there, right?
conditional.
Yeah, you can open up the laundromat
Yeah,
and
so
use the
it's out.
garage out back. He's working on it. I'm just letting the board know he's working on it.
You tell Tracy he's gotta come see us.
Hey, did we get hung up on the garage door because he wanted to store his own truck out back or something, or work?
He's got his truck little garage out back. Yeah, he's got that. He is working on the site plan. He should be up there.
Anything else?
Is he gonna do the whole property, or is he planning on just doing the part he's leasing out?
No, he's gonna, and once
Just making sure.
he's gotta have a site plan for the simple reason, now he'll have 3 different
Oh.
businesses in that one building.
So he's a complete one.
Yep,
Same as the laundromat,
I agree.
apartment house down on 16B, because it's more than 2 units.
They're gonna do all 6 in that building again? Or just 4? 4, they abandoned the basement.
Gonna leave the basement alone this time, Pete.
Yeah, they're going ahead with the mold, the sprinkler system, they're putting everything in there.
Are they really?
Yeah, I put all new windows in,
Who
new
bought it?
siding.
Person out of Mass.
Is there anything
How
else?
long it's been closed, I've gotta find that out.
Motion to adjourn?
Is there anything else before we have motion to adjourn?
No, I brought up the one thing I was curious about.
All those in favor?
Do I need a second? We're out.
No,
Dennis
second.
already did it.
All right, you didn't hear me, I second.
Oh, good, I'm glad you did.
Peter?
What?
Oh, right across